Even though Ben Affleck isn't turning 50 until next year, he has already experienced enough highs and lows in Hollywood to last several lifetimes, and he certainly isn't immune to bad publicity. Today, we're going to look at Ben's rocky personal and professional life. He's had more ups and downs than a roller coaster, and try as he might, he just can't seem to shake the controversy that seems to constantly follow him. To be fair, it must be nerve-wracking to have every choice and action dissected by the media. The modern press would probably paint Mother Teresa to be some kind of monster if she were around. Stay tuned to find out why Affleck and longtime girlfriend Ana de Armas decided to call it quits. But first, we're going to dive deep into Affleck's past to see where he came from and how he found himself in the spotlight in the first place. Affleck's rise to fame. Ben was born in Berkeley, California in 1972. His family moved to Massachusetts when he was 3. His mother, Chris Bolt, was an elementary school teacher and a Harvard grad. His father, Timothy Affleck, provided for his family as a carpenter, but always aspired to be a playwright. In the 60s, Timothy had been an actor and stage manager with the Theater Company of Boston, but his severe alcoholism prevented him from pursuing his dreams. Eventually, he even wound up homeless because of his drinking problem. Ben got his first taste for acting at 13 when he landed a role in a children's television show in Mexico. In high school, Affleck acted in various theater productions. That's around the time he became good friends with Matt Damon. Even though Damon was a couple years older, they both had essentially the same interests and goals. He and Damon traveled over to New York City several times for acting auditions. They even saved money for their travel expenses in a joint bank account. It was clear they had each other's backs. When Affleck turned 18, he moved to LA to study Middle Eastern affairs at Occidental College. While there, he directed several student films. Small roles in feature films started coming his way. He played Patrick Duffy's son in 1991's Daddy, and then made an uncredited appearance in Buffy the Vampire Slayer in 1992. He landed his first major film role in Richard Linklater's classic stoner comedy Dazed and Confused in 1993. After befriending filmmaker Kevin Smith, Affleck got the chance to star in Mallrats and Chasing Amy. What really skyrocketed him up to the A-list, however, was co-writing and starring in the award-winning drama Good Will Hunting alongside his best friend Matt Damon. That film earned him an Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay and established him as one of the most in-demand actors in the industry. For the next decade or so, Affleck was on top of the world, starring in blockbuster hits like Armageddon, The Sum of All Fears, Pearl Harbor, and Daredevil. But despite finding success, his troubles were only getting started. By the early 2000s, he was all over the tabloids. After starring in a series of lackluster films like Paycheck, Jersey Girl, and Gigli, Affleck's promising career started to nosedive. As such, his faltering career became the perfect fodder for the ruthless tabloid magazines flourishing at the time. Affleck had to essentially make it in the business twice. His public image had become so negatively affected, he had to reinvent himself. It was harder to find success at this point than when he was first starting out. At least when he was unknown, nobody had preconceptions of who he was or what he was all about. After the press ran his name through the mud, it was a lot like restarting a mile further back from the starting line. But despite having the cards stacked against him, Affleck was able to make his comeback. He's arguably a bigger star than he was 10 years ago. Not only is he Batman, he's also found success as a filmmaker, directing films like The Town, Gone Baby Gone, and Academy Award Best Picture winner Argo. When he dated J-Lo, people said mean, sexist, and racist things. Remember how Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez were a big thing back in the day? In the early 21st century, you couldn't go anywhere without hearing about Bennifer. Affleck and Lopez met on the set of Gigli and quickly fell in love. By the end of 2002, they had gotten engaged. Overnight, every tabloid clamored to snap a shot of Lopez's 6-carat pink diamond engagement ring. It was this overzealous and ruthless press that ultimately ended their relationship. Affleck shared with The Hollywood Reporter's Awards Chatter podcast that he and J-Lo's relationship suffered terribly, in large part because of the racist and sexist comments being published in the tabloids. They had become the story of the month. As such, every bit of their lives was picked apart and scrutinized. They had no privacy, and vicious lies were constantly being published about both of them. It just got to be too much. Lopez told InStyle magazine in November it was a lot worse back then than it is today. With social media, stars can show the public who they are, at least in part. But back then, people believed whatever they read on the cover of tabloids, even though most of the time it wasn't true or wildly distorted. Hey, if you're enjoying this video so far, take a moment to give it a like and subscribe to our channel. And stay tuned to learn why Ben and Ana de Armas decided to call it quits. Affleck's alcoholism. There's a lot of addiction in Affleck's family. We already mentioned his father was an alcoholic, but so were two of his grandparents. His grandmother was addicted to both barbiturates and alcohol. She committed suicide when she was 46. His paternal uncle was also an addict. He too took his own life. And Ben's aunt was addicted to heroin. Ben's drinking first became problematic when he was 15. His mom sent him away to a wilderness camp for at-risk teenagers instead of sending him to rehab. In his early 20s, he became sober once again for a couple of years, but suffered a relapse in 2001. After receiving residential treatment, he stayed sober again for another couple of years. For a while, he thought he could drink like a normal person, but over time, he gradually started drinking more and more until eventually he was blacking out on a nightly basis. Ben went back to inpatient rehab in 2017. He had a very public relapse a year later in 2018. In 2019, he was filmed stumbling around the streets of LA drunk as a skunk. The next day, he acknowledged that he had slipped up after over a year of sobriety. In 2020, while on tour promoting the sports film The Way Back, Affleck publicly discussed his alcoholism. He mentioned it took him a long time to finally admit he was an addict. He further revealed he's a follower of a 12-step program and asserted there is a great deal of value in talking about being in recovery. Affleck and Ana de Armas split. Ben and Ana have officially split after being together for almost a year. The Justice League actor and the Cuban actress had quarantined together and seemed to be on good terms before Armas made a trip back home to visit her family for the holidays. That's when rumors started spreading that their relationship was on the rocks. Even though their relationship is over, a source close to both of them told Page Six they still share a lot of love. Their breakup is reportedly amicable, but that same source pointed out that Ben is focused on raising his kids and Ana is just in a different place in her life. They met on the set of the upcoming film Deep Water in 2019. Armas was by all accounts a great influence on Ben. For one, she helped him open up to the public about his struggles with alcohol. Unfortunately, it seems they were just not meant to be. Co-parenting hasn't always been easy. Affleck will always put his kids first, even if that means some of his romantic connections not panning out. Ben has 3 children with his ex-wife Jennifer Garner. His oldest, Violet, is 15. Then there's Serafina, who's 11, and 8-year-old Samuel. Affleck and Garner met back in 2000 while on the set of Pearl Harbor. They got married in 2005 and enjoyed 10 years of marriage before splitting in 2015. They finalized their divorce in 2018. Since their split, they've remained in relatively good terms for the sake of their children. Before he and Armas split, Garner was reportedly happy to hear Ana was getting close with her kids. She and Ben have kept the lines of communication open because they're committed to their co-parenting dynamic. Granted, it hasn't always been easy. When Affleck was dealing with his high-profile relapse in 2018, it put a strain on their arrangement, especially since it was his alcoholism in part that brought about the end of their marriage. But it was ultimately Garner who helped get The Way Back into production. In the film, Affleck plays a basketball coach who also struggles with alcoholism. Playing that role helped Ben confront his own demons in an open and honest manner. Even though he's had his fair share of controversies, we think Ben Affleck has handled things pretty gracefully. Sure, he's got his problems, but at least he's got the courage to confront his struggles and not hide from them. What's your favorite Ben Affleck film? Good Will Hunting or Argo? Or something else? Let us know in the comments section below. And before you go, make sure you like this video and subscribe to our channel. Tap the bell icon to stay updated on all our latest videos.